everybody, my name is Hannah and I am a food educator with Common Threads Farm, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make the Pasta Primavera recipe that you will find in your food bag. So I'm really excited for us to make this today. However, the first thing we're going to need to do is wash our hands because we want to make sure that we're cooking safely in our kitchen, not just with our tools, but also with our health. So let's take 20 seconds to go wash our hands really well and then come on back. Alright, so your hands are clean and now we're ready to start cooking. So the first thing that we're going to do is cook our pasta. And what you're going to do is you're going to fill up a saucepan or a small pot like this, about halfway full with water, put it on your stove, crank it up to high heat, add some salt in there, let your water come to a boil. You'll pour your pasta in, turn the temperature down to about a medium heat. You want to watch it to make sure it doesn't boil over. If that starts happening, just turn the temperature down. You're going to cook your pasta for about 8 to 10 minutes. Go ahead and taste a piece as you're cooking to make sure it gets the texture that you like. When you're ready and your pasta is done, you'll turn off the heat. You'll take out about a half a cup of that pasta water, and then you'll strain the rest of it over your sink with a strainer. And that's something that you might want to ask help with if you haven't done it before, because the steam and the water in the pot are pretty hot. So that is the very first thing that you're going to do. I cooked mine earlier, so if you haven't cooked your pasta yet, go ahead and press pause. Go cook your pasta, rewatch that first part of the video if you need to, and then come on back when you're ready and we will cover the rest of the recipe. Awesome, so you're back from cooking your pasta, so that means it's time to start with our vegetables. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is safety here in the kitchen. So we're using our stove, which is going to get really hot, so we want to make sure that we're being safe around that and not touching any hot surfaces. And then we're also using our knife today. So my knife is a tool, not a toy. So I'm going to make sure that I'm treating it with respect. I'm right-handed, so when I grab my knife, I'm going to use my pincher fingers to pinch the blade up here, and then I'm going to wrap my 3 other fingers around. That way I have control of the knife. And now there's a couple different ways we might use our knife today. We may use our pancake method, which means I'm going to take my other hand, put it on top of my knife, and rock back and forth. And this is what we use to mince or to chop up nice and small. I then might use my claw and saw method. So I hold my hand like a claw, not like a jellyfish. I want all my fingers tucked away. Hold my hand like a claw and saw down with my knife through whatever I'm chopping. And then I might use my tunnel method. So you make a tunnel with your hand to hold whatever you're chopping, and then you can cut down through, keeping your fingers away. Now it's important when we're using our knives that we're always watching what we're doing. So you might see me demonstrating how to chop something. Go ahead and wait for me to do the demonstration, see how I do it, and then you can do it yourself. So you might need to pause so that I don't get too far ahead of you. So the first thing that we're going to chop up is I have some broccoli in my bag, and you might have different things like broccoli, zucchini, bell peppers. This is a great recipe because you can put a little bit of everything in there. Some onion would be good, so you can really get excited about it. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of just break apart with my hands the florets of broccoli. So they're kind of like flowers, but they're called florets. And I'm just going to break these apart, and then you can use the stem too if you want. But once I have those florets broken up, I'm just going to use my claw and saw and just chop, and maybe even my pancake actually feels good. And I'm just going to chop some of those into smaller pieces so that they cook at around the same time as the rest of my veggies. So I'm going to chop those up. I don't want them super small, but nice kind of bite-sized pieces. So if one has a really long stem, I might cut some of that stem off. Always always making sure that I'm watching what I'm doing and not getting distracted. I said earlier you could use that stem. I'm going to cut just the end of it off, put that aside, and then I'm just going to cut little rings, little circles. You can see I'm using my claw and saw, and then before I get to my fingers, just gonna back away from it. Alright, so there's my broccoli. The next thing I'm going to chop up is my zucchini. Now, half of it's already been chopped off, but I'm going to use my claw and saw and take off the end of it. And then I'm going to use my tunnel method. And you want to make sure these can kind of roll, so you want to hold a sturdy tunnel. I'm going to cut it in half, just like that. Now it won't roll on me. I'm going to cut it in half again. So now it's in a quarter piece. I'm going to put those two halves together. Then I'm going to use my claw and saw and just cut down through the zucchini, making nice little quarter moon shapes, just like that. And as I get closer to my fingers, I'll back them away. And now we'll do the other half the same exact way. Okay, now that we have those prepped, I had some extra greens in my bag, so I'm going to take the stems off those. I'm going to show you a fun little trick. I'm going to take 2 chard leaves and 1 thing of kale, and I'm going to make a little stack of them like this. And then I'm going to roll them up so that it's kind of like a little leaf burrito, like that. And then I'm just going to chop down using my claw and saw through that little leaf burrito. And now it made these nice little strips. And that is a technique in cooking called to chiffonade. And so we chiffonaded our kale and chard. So I'm going to put that there. And then I brought some herbs from my garden that I'm going to use. So if you have herbs like oregano or sage or thyme, you could use those too. But if you don't, that's totally fine. But what I'm going to do, and I'm going to move this so that you can see, and I'm just going to put this right here. So I'm going to take all my herbs off their stems, make a little pile, and then using that pancake hand, I'm just going to kind of chop down through them so that they can cook nicely in my dish. I'm so excited for this. This is one of my favorite things to cook because you can put so many different things in it. So whatever you have around, whatever vegetables, you could put beans in it, you could put different herbs, all kinds of different things. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to turn on my skillet to about a 5, kind of medium heat. And I'm going to add in that pasta water that I saved. And then I'm going to add in my broccoli and my zucchini. And I'm going to wait on the kale and the chard though. I'll add those in closer to the end because those will take less time to cook. Now, these need maybe about 4 to 6 minutes to cook and become tender. So while they're cooking, you'll want to give them a stir with a nice big spoon every few seconds or so, every 30 seconds or so, to make sure everything is cooking evenly. And while that's happening, you can do a little cleanup. So I'm going to clean up some of my food scraps that are around and put them in my compost. Cleanup is a big part of cooking, so go ahead and give yourself some time now while things are starting to cook to clean up your station. So remember, every 30 seconds or so, give your vegetables a stir. And you know, I want these to cook a little bit faster, so I'm going to turn my heat up a little bit to about a 7, just so we can really get that water heating up to cook up our vegetables. Alright, so it's been about 6 minutes. I think my veggies are almost done. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add in my greens here at the end. And I'm going to stir those in. And let those cook for maybe about another 30 seconds for a minute, just for those greens to cook through a bit. Okay, so the greens that I added in are looking nice and done. One little trick that you might want to do to make sure the rest of your vegetables are done is you can poke through them with a fork, and if it goes in really easily, then they're probably done. You can also poke one and try it. Just make sure you blow it off first to make sure it's nice and cool. So I'm going to poke a thicker piece of my zucchini, and my fork went through really easy, but I want to taste it just to be sure it's done. That is perfect. The pot that I cooked my pasta in is a little bit larger, so I'm just going to pour my vegetables right into this pot. However, if you wanted to combine everything into a large bowl, you can do that too. But I'm going to turn off my skillet, do that, and then the handle of my pan is pretty hot, so I'm going to use a oven mitt here to grab my vegetables, and then I'm just going to pour them in to my pasta. This is going to be so yummy. And once I do that, I'm going to bring this over here. I'm going to mix it all together. I'm going to add my herbs that I chopped up. Mix those in. And then I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil. I'm going to add about a teaspoon of olive oil to mine. And then I'm also going to add a little slice of butter. So I'm also going to add a little slice of butter. And you can do this however you want. You can just use olive oil, you can use butter, you can use a different kind of oil. I'm going to mix that in so that butter melts with the hot veggies. And then I'm going to do salt and pepper to taste. So I'm going to crank in maybe 3 good cracks of pepper in there. And then I'm going to do about 2 nice pinches of salt. You can do this to taste. So put a little bit in and then taste it and see if you want more. Because you can always add more, but you can't take it back if you add in maybe a little bit too much. So do it to taste, see how it is. And once everything's all mixed together, I'm going to add it to a bowl here. Something else that could be good is if you like cheese, you could add some cheese on top. There's a lot of options, and I really like this recipe because whether you have broccoli or bell pepper or zucchini or onion or garlic, there are a lot of things you can add in here. And now I think we're ready to try. Here's what mine looks like. I'm really excited to try this. You can smell it, see what it smells like. Take a bite. Kind of blow on it a little bit to cool it down. That is delicious. Good job. Alrighty, well, thank you so much for joining me. And if you haven't yet seen the video where we make our garden stir fry, please feel free to check that out. It's another super yummy recipe. And have a good time cooking, and I'll see you next time. Bye!